AITA for refusing to forgive my coach. I'm 16, and I've always been quiet. Not shy exactly, just the kind of person who thinks before talking. I play basketball, not because I want to go pro or anything, but because it keeps my mind off things. My school isn't huge, but the gym always feels like a spotlight. If you mess up, everyone sees. Coach Elwood, he's in his late 40s, has run the boys team for years. He's strict, but people always said he just wants the best out of us. I used to believe that, until last month. We were in the middle of practice, working on passing drills. I wasn't having the best day. My grandpa had just gone into the hospital the night before. I barely slept, but I still showed up, didn't make excuses. I was doing what I could. Maybe I missed a few passes. Maybe I was a step slower. Coach suddenly blew the whistle. He didn't just call me out. He exploded, right there in front of the team. Riley, you think you're doing me a favor just showing up like that? This isn't a daycare. If you want to act like a zombie, go sit on the bench and cry about it. I froze. Everyone else stopped too. For a second, no one even moved. I told him, quietly, that I was doing my best, that I wasn't feeling great. He didn't ask why. He didn't lower his voice. He laughed, and then he said, loud enough for the whole gym to hear, "Your best? Then maybe your best isn't good enough to play here. If your feelings are more important than the team, maybe go home and cuddle your teddy bear." It stung. I didn't cry then. I didn't even say anything. I just left. I walked straight out the doors, backpack still in my locker. That night, I didn't sleep again. Not because of my grandpa, but because of that voice, over and over in my head. I kept wondering if maybe I really was too soft. Maybe I was just making excuses. The next day, I skipped practice. Then the next. And then, out of nowhere, Coach pulled me aside during lunch. He said he overreacted. He told me he'd just had a long day. Then he pulled a pack of basketball cards from his pocket. He knew I collected them and tried to hand it to me, like that was supposed to undo what he'd done. I asked him why he humiliated me in front of everyone. He said, "I wasn't trying to humiliate you. I was trying to push you. You're better than what you showed." I told him I didn't want the cards. Later that week, during warm-ups, he made everyone clap for me when I walked into the gym, like it was supposed to make things normal again. I just stood there, frozen. Some teammates smiled awkwardly. Others looked away. After practice, I overheard him talking to our assistant coach, saying, "He's like a son to me. That's why I'm hard on him." A few days after that, the school counselor called me in, said Coach told her I was struggling and that he was worried about me, said I should be grateful to have someone who cares that much. I told her everything, the yelling, the humiliation, the way he never asked if I was okay before tearing me down. She nodded. Then she said, "I know Coach Elwood. He means well. Try to see his heart." I stopped going to practice after that. I dropped basketball, lost friends over it too. My mom asked why, and I told her the full story. She said, "Sometimes adults just say things in the heat of the moment. Maybe you should get him a card. Let him know there are no hard feelings." No hard feelings. I didn't argue. I just walked away. Now, whenever a teacher raises their voice or an adult says something condescending, I feel it again. That same smallness, that same silence. People say I should be the bigger person, that I should move on. But all I see is a grown man in a position of power who chose to break me down to prove a point. So I ask AITA for not forgiving him, even now, even after all this time.
Update.
Some of my old teammates started messaging me after word got around that I wasn't coming back to the team. I ignored the first few texts. I didn't really know what to say, but then I got a long message from Noah. He was our shooting guard, always calm, always collected, the kind of guy who never got yelled at, or so I thought. He asked if we could talk after school. I hesitated, but finally agreed. We met behind the bleachers, where no one else could hear us. He didn't waste time. He said, "I know what happened with Coach. I saw it, and I know because he did the same thing to me last year." That caught me off guard. Noah, the golden boy? I asked him what he meant. He looked down and said, "It was during playoffs last season. I missed a few free throws in practice, and Coach lost it. He screamed in my face so loud I couldn't hear right for the rest of the day. Then he made me run suicides until I collapsed. I threw up on the court. He just stood there and told me to clean it up." I asked why he never said anything, why he stayed on the team. He shrugged. Because he said it was tough love. Because my dad told me not to be soft. Because if you complain, you get benched. And I was scared, so I just took it. Then he told me something else. He did it to Jordan too. You remember when he quit mid-season? Everyone thought he just moved away. But that's not the whole story. Turns out, Coach humiliated Jordan in front of a scout once, called him a waste of space because he missed a layup during a practice game. Jordan had a panic attack later that night. He didn't come back to school the next week. His parents transferred him. The pieces started fitting together in ways I didn't want to believe. I wasn't the first, just the latest. But that wasn't even the worst part. Noah said he recently found a group chat that some of the older players used to be in, a place where they'd joke about Coach's meltdowns. Screenshots, nicknames they gave gave him. Stories about being screamed at, threatened, even punished with extra laps for things like forgetting a water bottle. And still, no one reported him. I asked Noah why he was telling me all this now. He paused. Then he said, "Because Coach texted me this morning. He told me to talk to you. Said I should convince you to come back. Said he wants this to just go away." I stared at him. "You're kidding." He shook his head. "No, and I'm sorry." I told him I would. But then I remembered how sick I felt that day I puked, and he just kept yelling. And I realized, I'm tired of protecting someone who never protected us. Then Noah pulled out his phone. He showed me a video, one I'd never seen. It was from 2 weeks ago. Practice. The day after I walked out, Coach was ranting to the team. "You all better not end up like Riley. Weak, emotional. We don't need soft kids here." You could hear teammates laughing nervously in the background. I didn't say anything for a while. I just stared at the screen. I don't know what hurt more, what he said, or the fact that no one stood up for me. Noah looked at me and said, "I don't think you're weak. You were the only one strong enough to walk away." I walked home that evening with a knot in my stomach. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was a pattern, a culture, and it had been allowed to grow for years. The next day, I printed out the screenshots, the video, and Noah's statement. I put them in an envelope and slid it under the door of the athletic director's office. I haven't heard anything yet, but the silence feels different this time. Heavy, like something is about to break.
Update 2.
After I quit the team, I wandered for a while. Not literally. I still went to school, still walked the same halls. But inside, I felt like I was floating, not really part of anything. The gym was off limits in my head. Just walking past it gave me this cold, tightening feeling in my chest. So I started walking the long way around. That's how I found the film club. They met in the old media room near the library. Small, dusty, and filled with outdated cameras and tangled wires. I poked my head in one afternoon without planning to. I just wanted a place to sit, somewhere quiet. Ms. Lennox, the faculty sponsor, waved me in without asking any questions. No clipboard, no sign-up sheet, just a simple, "You're welcome to stay." At first, I didn't say much. I sat in the back and watched. They were working on a student short film for the arts festival, something experimental about memory and time. It didn't totally make sense to me, but I liked the rhythm of it, the planning, the camera angles, the storyboarding. One of the other students, Mateo, noticed I kept showing up. He asked if I wanted to help with lighting. I said yes, even though I had no clue how any of it worked. He didn't care. He showed me how to set up reflectors and adjust brightness, how to make a face look soft and real on camera. That was the first time I felt useful in weeks. It was quiet work, focused, no yelling, no whistle, no lines to run. But still, every now and then, something inside me missed the sound of sneakers on the court, the echo of the ball hitting the floor, the rhythm of team drills. Not the competition, not the pressure, but something simpler, the feeling of moving together. Then something strange happened. One afternoon, during setup, Ms. Lennox pulled me aside. She said, "I saw what you did." I froze. She added, "The envelope. You left it for the athletic director, didn't you?" I didn't respond right away. I wasn't even sure how she knew. She smiled gently. "You're not in trouble. I just want you to know, I think it was brave." Then she said something that shook me a little. "You're not the first person Coach Elwood's hurt. And thanks to you, you might be the last." I didn't understand what she meant. But then, a few days later, news broke. Coach had been placed on temporary leave. The school didn't give details. They called it a personnel matter. But everyone was talking. Whispers in the hallway. Speculation in the locker rooms. Some kids were angry. Others looked relieved. Then Mateo came to me with a question. He said, "What if we made a short film about power? Not just the obvious kind, like politics or money, but the quiet kind. The way people use it, abuse it." I knew what he was asking without saying it. He wanted to tell the story. Not my story, not exactly, but something like it. Inspired by real things, real moments. At first, I wasn't sure. It felt too raw, too soon. But then I realized we could do it carefully, thoughtfully. No names, no finger pointing, just truth wrapped in fiction. We started writing the script together. As we worked, something unexpected happened. I started to feel strong again. Not the kind of strength you get from lifting weights or winning games. The kind that comes from turning pain into something with shape and meaning. But there was a twist I didn't see coming. One afternoon, while packing up equipment, Mateo pulled me aside. He said, "There's something I haven't told you." He looked nervous. Then he said, "Coach Elwood used to work at my old school." He didn't yell at me, but he did at my best friend. Same patterns, same humiliation. My friend quit sports altogether, still won't talk about it. That was when I understood how deep it really went. It wasn't just me, or Noah, or Jordan. It was everywhere he went. The day we filmed the final scene of our short, I was standing behind the camera, watching a quiet, powerful moment unfold. The main character, based loosely on me, was walking off a basketball court, alone, after standing up to a toxic coach. No words, just the sound of footsteps and silence. And I realized I didn't miss the court anymore. Not because I'd forgotten it, but because I'd finally faced it. Not the way he made me feel, but the way I chose to feel now.
Update 3.
Last week, I opened my locker and saw something folded neatly on top of my books. At first, I thought someone had left a fly flyer. But when I picked it up, I saw my name written on the front in Coach Elwood's handwriting. I knew it instantly, bold, all caps, like everything he ever wrote was meant to be shouted, even in ink. I stared at the letter for a long time before I opened it. Part of me didn't want to. Another part of me hoped maybe, just maybe, it would say what I needed to hear. It didn't. The letter started with, "I'm heartbroken." He wrote about how hard it's been for him, how the accusations had tarnished his reputation, how he had given his life to this team and never imagined being painted as the villain by someone he believed in. He mentioned my name 6 times. Every time, it was tied to how disappointed he was. He said I had misunderstood his intentions, that he only pushed me because he saw greatness, that I had thrown him under the bus when all he ever wanted was to build me up. And then, at the bottom, scribbled like an afterthought, "If you ever want to talk, my door is open. But if not, I hope someday you'll look back and realize I was the only one who truly believed in you." I sat on the bench outside the locker room, holding the letter. I didn't cry. I didn't rip it up. I just sat there, feeling something strange, like I had walked through a fire, only to be handed a wet matchstick. Later that day, Mateo noticed I was quiet during editing. I told him about the letter. He asked if I was going to respond. I said no. Then something happened I didn't expect. Ms. Lennox pulled me aside after club and said, "You need to see something." She took me to the staff break room and showed me a printed email chain between Coach Elwood and another staff member. I wasn't supposed to see it, I'm sure, but she trusted me. In it, Coach said he wanted to get ahead of the narrative before the festival screening of our film. He said the film could be damaging, that it was inappropriate for students to publicly imply misconduct without proof, and that he'd be disappointed if certain faculty didn't help manage the situation. There it was, proof that the letter wasn't an apology. It was insurance, a preemptive strike wrapped in guilt. He didn't want to reconnect. He wanted to reframe the story, to make me the aggressor and him the misunderstood mentor. That's when I made my decision. The night before the festival, I stayed up and wrote my own letter. Not for him, but for the school board. In it, I included everything. What he said to me, what I witnessed with others, what Noah told me, and how the administration brushed it off. I ended it with this sentence: "Belief without kindness isn't leadership. It's control with a ribbon tied around it." I submitted it anonymously through the student protection portal. But here's the twist. At the festival, when our film finished and the lights came back on, there was silence. And then, someone in the back, one of the new freshmen on the team, stood up and clapped, slowly. Then more joined in, even some teachers. But Coach wasn't there. He never showed up. I later heard he had been advised not to attend. A few days after that, I walked past my locker and noticed another letter tucked in the side. But this one wasn't from him. It was from Jordan, the guy who left school last year without a word. He wrote, "I saw the film online. I wanted to say thank you for saying what I couldn't." And under that, in smaller handwriting, "I think I'm ready to talk about it now." For the first time in a long time, I smiled. Coach might never understand what he did. He may never admit it, but I don't need his understanding to heal.
You are not the IATA. Coach Elwood weaponized authority and cloaked cruelty as tough love, a term abusers cling to like a badge. You didn't just walk away from toxicity, you exposed it, disrupted it, and turned it into something healing for others. Forgiveness isn't owed just because someone regrets getting caught. You sought no revenge, only truth. And that truth echoed louder than any whistle ever could. You didn't burn the bridge, you built a better road. And before we move on to the next story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. What did you think about this story? What advice would you give to the person? Let us know in the comments.
AITA for confronting my husband about his mother's cruelty toward me and my children? I married my husband, David, a little over a month ago. We've been together for more than a decade, since we were in our early 20s. David has been a steady presence in my life and in the lives of my 2 daughters, Lily, 16, and Emma, 13. David's never been wealthy, but that's never mattered to me. What mattered was his kindness, the way he treated me and the girls like family, and the quiet way he made us feel safe. We had a small wedding ceremony, just the 3 of us and a few close friends. It was simple, but it felt right. For a while, I thought things with David's family were getting better. His mother, Sylvia, had always been distant and cold, but I believed marriage would soften her attitude. I hoped for peace, for respect. But a week after the wedding, everything shattered. David had left his phone unattended while getting a drink. Out of habit, I glanced at it. He wasn't hiding anything from me, but what I saw broke me. There, in his mother's text messages, was a stream of bitter words. Sylvia called me a leech, accused me and my daughters of draining David dry, and said we take without giving. She said we were ungrateful and parasitic. She made no distinction between me and the girls, as if we were a single problem she hated. I have lived a difficult life, but I work hard. After an accident left me unable to work for months, I've been steadily regaining my strength and preparing to return to full-time work. My daughters have never been spoiled. Lily has had part-time jobs since she was 15, saving for college, and Emma is thoughtful, modest, and kind. David has been nothing but generous and loving to all of us. I showed David the messages, hoping for understanding, hoping he would stand up for me. Instead, he said I should have never looked at his phone, that I was overreacting, that his mother's words weren't meant to be taken seriously.
But how could they not be?
How could a mother speak like that about her son's wife and children? How could David dismiss such cruelty as just words? I tried to keep calm. I didn't want to fight, but inside I felt crushed, unseen, unprotected. Then the real drama started. 2 days later, Sylvia called. She demanded to come over, to clear the air. I said no. David didn't stop her. Sylvia showed up at our door anyway, uninvited, with a fake smile and a wrapped gift. It was a necklace for Emma. For the baby, she said, her voice sharp.
Emma didn't want it.
Lily was furious. I told Sylvia to leave. She refused, calling me ungrateful again. The girls hid upstairs. I felt trapped. David finally intervened, telling his mother to leave, but he was cold with me after. He said I was making things worse, that I was pushing his family away. He asked me if I wanted him to choose me or his mother. That night, I cried alone in the kitchen. I love David. I love the family we are trying to build, but I don't know if I can live like this, feeling attacked, unloved, and silenced. I want peace, but I don't know how to find it. I don't want to lose David, but how much pain am I expected to endure for love?
Update.
A week after that awful confrontation with Sylvia, things didn't just stay tense. They escalated into something I never imagined. Sylvia's messages didn't stop. At first, they were harsh comments about me and the girls, but then they took a darker turn. She began sending texts directly to David, blaming me for manipulating him and turning the girls against his family. Every message was sharp, bitter, full of accusations that felt like knives cutting deeper into the fragile peace we had left. David tried to hide these messages from me. He'd quickly close his phone when I walked into the room, or put it face down on the table. But I wasn't blind or naive. I found a way to see them, piece by piece. The words made my stomach churn. The home that was supposed to be a sanctuary began to feel like a battleground. Every silence between us carried the weight of unspoken anger and hurt. One afternoon, the breaking point came unexpectedly. Emma was on the phone with Sylvia, an attempt to keep some connection despite the Cold War between us. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables, when I heard Sylvia's voice, low and harsh. She called Emma a spoiled brat for asking for a modest Christmas gift, something small and thoughtful, not extravagant. Emma's voice cracked as she defended herself, but Sylvia just sneered through the phone. I couldn't stay quiet any longer. I grabbed the phone from Emma and told Sylvia calmly, but firmly, that she had no right to speak to my daughter that way. I reminded her that Emma was kind and grateful, and that her cruelty was unwelcome in our home. What happened next shocked me. Sylvia didn't apologize. Instead, she laughed, a cold, cruel sound that echoed through the speaker. You think you can tell me what's right? You're nothing but a burden. I'm trying to protect my son from your lies. I slammed the phone down, my hands trembling. That evening, David confronted me. He was angry, his voice sharp and cold, so different from the man I married. You crossed a line, he said. Sylvia is my mother.
You have to respect that.
You can't just attack her and expect things to be okay. I was stunned. How could he defend her? How could he ignore what she said to my daughter? The words felt like a slap in the face. For the first time, I saw a crack in David's unwavering support, and it terrified me. I realized I was more alone than I'd ever felt. The man I loved seemed to be choosing his mother over me and my girls. The foundation of our family felt shaky, uncertain. But the drama didn't stop there. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard a noise downstairs, a muffled conversation. I got up quietly and crept to the living room window. Outside, I saw Sylvia talking to a man I didn't recognize. They spoke in hushed tones, glancing around nervously. It was late, and the neighborhood was quiet. Why was she here? Who was that man? The next morning, David told me Sylvia had been talking to one of his childhood friends, trying to get dirt on me. She wanted proof to make her case that I was breaking up the family. I felt sick. It was like living inside a nightmare I couldn't wake from. Days later, at a school event for the girls, Sylvia showed up unannounced. She cornered Emma and whispered bitter things about me, making Emma cry in front of her classmates. Lily was furious and told Sylvia to leave immediately. Sylvia only smiled and said, "I'm just trying to keep the family honest." That moment, I realized Sylvia's attacks weren't random. They were calculated, meant to isolate us, to turn David and everyone else against me and the girls. I begged David to see what was happening. I begged him to protect us. But he looked tired, torn between his mother and me. I didn't know how much longer I could hold on before everything broke. The house no longer felt like a home. It was a battlefield. world, and I was losing the war.
Update 2.
Just when I felt like the walls were closing in and everything was slipping beyond repair, Lily, my older daughter, came to me one quiet evening. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was a determination in her voice I hadn't seen before. She told me she had overheard a conversation between David and his mother, Sylvia. They were talking in hushed tones, but Lily caught enough to know Sylvia was planning something cruel. She wanted to cut the girls out completely. No holidays, no family dinners, no celebrations. Sylvia said the girls didn't belong, and that David should stop enabling me and them. Hearing that broke something inside me, but Lily was devastated too. She felt betrayed and unwanted by the very family we hoped to belong to. I expected her to want to lash out, to yell, or cry more. But instead, Lily had an idea, something surprising in its maturity and strength. She wanted to confront Sylvia, but not with anger or bitterness. She wanted to write a letter filled with honesty, respect, and love. She wanted Sylvia to see the truth from her point of view, to understand how deeply we cared for David and how much we wanted to be part of the family, even if it hurt sometimes. Lily wrote slowly, choosing her words carefully, making sure the message was clear but gentle. The letter said things like, "We love Dad like you do. We want to belong. Please don't shut us out." She spoke about the happy memories, the quiet moments we shared, and the hope we still had for healing. Together, we sent the letter. I hoped, maybe foolishly, that it could soften Sylvia's heart. But the drama was far from over. A few days after sending the letter, the tension at home grew thicker. David became more distant. He stopped answering my texts, started avoiding conversations about his mother. Then, one evening, as I was cooking dinner, the doorbell rang. It was Sylvia, again, uninvited and unexpected. But this time, she wasn't alone. She had brought along her sister, Marianne, someone I barely knew but who seemed to have the same coldness in her eyes. They demanded to talk, insisting it was family business and that I was overstepping. I tried to stay calm, but when Sylvia brought up the letter, calling it manipulative and pathetic attempt at guilt-tripping, I felt my resolve crumble. Marianne smirked and whispered something cruel about trying to play the victim. The girls watched from upstairs, tears streaming silently. Then came the real shock. That night, David told me he didn't want Sylvia and Marianne to come around anymore. But when I asked him to stand up to them, he hesitated. His voice cracked as he said, "They're family, Mara. I don't know how to fight them without losing everything." I realized then how trapped he felt, caught between loyalty to his mother and love for me. But I couldn't accept being a hostage to their cruelty any longer. In the following days, strange things began happening. Our mail was delayed. Invitations to family events didn't come. David received cold shoulder from relatives who sided with Sylvia. One afternoon, I found the girls' names crossed off a guest list for a family reunion. It felt like we were being erased. Lily, despite the pain, refused to give up. She began researching ways to approach conflict calmly and assertively. She even started writing another letter, this one addressed to Marianne and Sylvia, hoping to appeal to any shred of compassion left. Through all this, I watched my daughter grow stronger, becoming the unexpected ally I so desperately needed. We don't know if the letters will change anything, but for the first time, I felt like maybe we weren't completely alone. The fight for our place in this fractured family had only just begun.
You're absolutely not the AITA here, enduring relentless hostility from a supposed family member who weaponizes cruelty under the guise of family loyalty is beyond unfair. Your husband's paralysis between defending his mother and supporting you fractures what should be a united front. Loyalty that demands silence in the face of verbal assault isn't love, it's emotional hostage-taking. Your daughter's resilience and thoughtfulness, priceless. Your approach, grounded in dignity and calm, shows strength many would envy. It's clear the real problem isn't your family trying to belong, it's a toxic grip from Sylvia that's choking the whole dynamic. Keep pushing back with that courage. Sometimes standing firm is the only way to carve out peace.
AITA for pulling away from my friend because of his new friend? I've had a close friendship with Ethan, who is 27, for many years. We grew up together, shared a lot of memories, and spent most weekends hanging out, playing games, or just talking about life. Recently, Ethan introduced a new friend into our group, someone named Liam. Liam was someone Ethan met about a month before I really started noticing how things were changing between us. At first, I was glad Ethan was making new friends. I was excited to meet Liam, tried my best to include him, and was genuinely curious about who who he was. I asked questions, tried to break the ice, but soon I noticed something odd. Liam barely acknowledged me in conversations. Almost every time we hung out, Liam would talk mostly with Ethan. They shared inside jokes and stories that I wasn't part of. It felt like I was standing at the edge of their world, looking in but not invited. I tried to push past that feeling. I made more of an effort to engage Liam, but the more I tried, the more I felt like I was invisible. When I spoke to Liam one-on-one, he gave short, uninterested answers, like he was just waiting for the conversation to end. It wasn't hostility exactly, but a kind of coldness that stung. At the same time, Ethan's behavior shifted too. When Liam was around, Ethan seemed distant with me. We didn't talk as much. The closeness we'd shared for years slowly started to fade, especially during group hangouts that included Liam. But if it was just Ethan and me, or other old friends without Liam, everything felt normal again. It made me wonder if I was overthinking things, or if Liam was really the cause of the change. I felt awkward and uncomfortable when Liam was present, almost like a third wheel, which was painful given how close Ethan and I had been. I started to avoid group events where Liam would be there. I stopped asking Ethan to hang out because I knew Liam would probably come too. It was easier to keep my distance than to try to force something that didn't feel right. One day, Ethan asked me why I wasn't around as much. I told him honestly how I felt, like I was being left out, and that hanging out with Liam made me uncomfortable. He laughed it off and said I was just jealous of Liam, which hurt more than I expected. I never wanted to come between them or force Ethan to choose, but it felt like I was losing my friend. Since then, Ethan has asked if Liam can come whenever we hang out. At first, I said yes, hoping things would improve, but they didn't. The same pattern repeated. I'd find myself talking to other people, avoiding conversations with Ethan and Liam, trying not to feel excluded. Now I'm stuck. I don't want to be unfair to Liam by excluding him, and I don't want to force Ethan to pick sides between us. But I'm also tired of feeling like an outsider in my own friendship. I wonder if I'm the one being unreasonable.
Update.
After weeks of carefully avoiding any group hangouts where Liam would be, I finally reached a point where Ethan insisted we meet alone. Maybe he wanted to clear the air, or maybe he just missed the way things were. We agreed to meet at a small cafe downtown, a quiet place with soft lighting and thick walls that swallowed most noise. It felt like the perfect place to have a serious conversation where no one else could interrupt or overhear. I arrived early, nervously twisting the edge of my jacket as I waited for Ethan to show up. When he finally walked in, his face was set in that familiar way, the look of someone who was frustrated but still cared. We ordered coffees and sat in a corner booth, the silence between us growing heavier by the second. I took a deep breath and decided to speak first. Ethan, I want to be honest with you. The way things have been with Liam, it makes me feel like I don't belong anymore. Like I'm just on the outside, watching you both connect without me. I miss how we used to be, and it hurts to feel pushed away. His eyes darkened slightly, and a flicker of irritation crossed his face. You're making it sound like Liam is the problem, he said sharply, leaning forward. But he's just my friend. You're the one who's pushing him away. I blinked, surprised by the edge in his voice. I'm not trying to push him away. I'm trying to tell you how it feels when I'm around, and it's like I'm invisible. When you and Liam are together, I'm just there. I want to feel included again. Ethan's jaw tightened. Maybe you don't want me to have other friends. Maybe you just want me all to yourself. The words hit me like a slap. I didn't want to admit it, but a part of me did want him all to myself. After years of close friendship, this felt like a betrayal, not by Liam, but by the distance growing between Ethan and me. But hearing it voiced so bluntly felt like a trap closing in. I'm not asking you to choose, I said quietly, trying to keep my voice steady. I just want you to understand what I'm feeling. It's not about Liam. It's about us. About losing what we had. Ethan's eyes narrowed. You think this is all about you? That I'm just abandoning you? That I don't care? No, I said, shaking my head. I know you care, but it feels like you're slipping away, and I don't know how to hold on. For a moment, the tension hung thick between us. Then Ethan looked away, running a hand through his hair. Maybe this friendship is changing, he said, softer now. Maybe it's not what it used to be. I wanted to argue, to say that friendships don't have to end just because new people come in. But deep down, I felt that maybe he was right. Maybe things were breaking in ways I couldn't fix. Then, just as I was about to respond, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. Something unreadable flickered in his eyes. I need to take this, he said, standing abruptly. It's Liam. He stepped outside to answer, leaving me alone with my swirling thoughts and a cold cup of coffee. As I sat there, a sinking feeling settled in my chest. This wasn't just about friendship. It was about the invisible lines being drawn, about loyalty and where I truly fit in Ethan's life. When Ethan returned, his face was guarded. Look, Caleb, he said, voice low, I don't want to lose you. But Liam's important to me. Maybe we all need some space to figure things out. I nodded slowly, unsure if I was ready to give up or hold on tighter. Walking out of that cafe, I realized something. Sometimes, the hardest conversations don't solve problems. They only reveal how deep they run. And I wasn't sure if our friendship could survive that.
Update 2.
Liam and I agreed to meet at a small cafe on a rainy afternoon, the kind of place where the windows fog up and the low hum of quiet conversations fills the air. For the first time since all this started, it felt like we could talk honestly, without Ethan or anyone else listening in, without the pressure of the group or the weight of old friendships pressing down on us. I arrived early, nervous and unsure of what to expect. When Liam walked in, his usual confident, extroverted mask seemed to slip just a little. He looked tired, worn in a way I hadn't noticed before. We ordered coffee and sat down by a corner. Window, rain dripping down the glass, blurring the world outside. It was oddly fitting, like the moment was washing away the tension that had built up between us. He began quietly, almost hesitantly. "I want to say something first. I've noticed you pulling away, and I'm sorry. I didn't mean to ignore you or make you feel like you didn't belong." He paused, searching my face. "Honestly, I think I've been struggling too. I'm not as good at making friends as I seem. Sometimes I don't know what to say or how to include someone new. I guess I'm shy in my own way." His words caught me off guard. The confident, outgoing Liam I knew sounded vulnerable, unsure of himself, admitting to faults he'd hidden behind a facade. I took a deep breath and let down my own walls. "I appreciate you saying that." I felt hurt, like I was being sidelined. "It wasn't just about you ignoring me. It was about losing my friendship with Ethan and feeling like I was disappearing from his life." He nodded slowly. "I get that. I didn't want to come between you two. I didn't realize how much my presence was affecting things." For a long moment, we sat in silence, the rain tapping a steady rhythm on the window pane. Then I surprised myself by saying, "I don't want to lose what I had with Ethan, but I also don't want to lose the chance to build something new with you, even if it's awkward or slow." Liam smiled, a real, genuine smile, and said, "Me too. Maybe we can start over, just the two of us. No pressure, no assumptions. Just friends." As we talked more, I learned things about him I never would have guessed. He'd had his own struggles, moving to a new city, feeling like an outsider in so many parts of his life. His jokes and confidence were sometimes a shield, hiding the fear of not fitting in. I shared some of my own fears, the loneliness I felt even when surrounded by people, the ache of feeling forgotten. But then, just as I thought the conversation was turning a corner, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and his expression darkened. It was a message from Ethan. Liam hesitated, then showed me the text. Ethan was asking him to come over immediately. Something about a problem with another friend, a conflict that had escalated fast. "I have to go," Liam said reluctantly, "but I want to keep doing this. I want to try." I nodded, watching him leave. I felt hopeful, but also uneasy. It was clear the path ahead wouldn't be simple. Old friendships, new ones, tangled feelings. They all had a way of complicating even the best intentions. Walking out into the damp evening, I realized that sometimes the hardest thing isn't just talking honestly. It's facing the reality that some people might be caught between worlds, and we all have to decide where we stand. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward.
Update 3.
When Ethan found out I had met with Liam alone, his reaction surprised me more than anything else so far. He didn't get angry or distant. Instead, there was a flicker of something almost like relief in his eyes. "I appreciate you trying," he said quietly one afternoon when we caught up at the park. "It means a lot that you reached out." It was the first real sign that maybe things could change. A few weeks later, Ethan invited both Liam and me to hang out at his place. The air was thick with tension when I arrived, like everyone was, waiting to see if this would be a disaster or a new beginning. The room was scattered with snacks and games, an attempt to break the awkward silence. I could see Liam fidgeting, obviously nervous. Ethan kept glancing between us, trying to gauge how we were feeling. As the evening unfolded, something shifted. Liam made a clear effort to include me. He asked questions, laughed at my jokes, and even pulled me into a game. For the first time, I felt like I wasn't just a third wheel or an outsider. Ethan, too, was different, more present, more aware of how everyone was interacting. He checked in with me several times, as if silently promising that I mattered. It wasn't perfect. There were moments when old patterns crept back. I caught Liam exchanging a look with Ethan that spoke volumes about the history between them, unspoken rivalries and loyalties still lingering in the air. But beneath the awkwardness, there was progress. Something real was beginning to take shape. Later that night, as we said our goodbyes, Ethan pulled me aside. "I know this hasn't been easy," he said, "but I don't want to lose what we have. And I want you to know there's room for all of us, if we're willing to try." His words hit me harder than I expected. Friendships aren't static. They change, sometimes painfully. But that change can bring new strength, new understanding. Maybe this was our chance. Still, the past few months had left scars. I wrestled with guilt and doubt. Was I wrong to pull away? Was I justified in feeling left out? I didn't want to be the reason Ethan lost a friend, yet I couldn't ignore how I'd felt erased. I found myself asking the hardest question of all: where did I truly belong now? That night, lying awake, I realized that sometimes growing doesn't mean everything stays the same. Sometimes it means finding a new place in the story, even if it's messy and uncertain. And maybe, with time and patience, all those tangled feelings could settle into something feeling stronger than before.
You are not the AITA. You navigated emotional turbulence with maturity, self-awareness, and a rare willingness to communicate rather than retreat or lash out. You didn't sabotage, exclude, or make demands. You adapted, made space, and showed empathy even when you were hurting. That's not possessiveness. That's courage in vulnerability. Suggestions: keep your individual connections strong without depending on group dynamics to validate your worth. Let friendships evolve, but don't let anyone rewrite your role in them without your consent. You have every right to expect reciprocity. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share your own story and let us know your favorite part in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, you'll love AITA for shutting down my brother. Click here to watch it now.